Oh,
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us here for Weekly Whiskey with John and Jay, your dose of whiskey for the week. This week it's John and Jay and a whole gaggle of people. But before we get to that, I want to go ahead and thank our audio sponsor, our audio partner, Mackie. They're making us sound great. They have all the gear in the studio here, and we're having a great time with it. So if you're curious about the stream and the setup, check out Mackie.com. Other than that, we got some whiskey to drink tonight, my friend. How you doing?
We have got a little bit of whiskey. You know, you touch on this every now and then. You mentioned how we're made on Mackie and they're our studio sponsor. But I also do like to mention that they somehow make you look a little more handsome than you already did. I didn't know it was possible, but I'm glad they do it.
It's the
Awful kind of
glow.
them.
It's the audio glow.
You've got a very nice audio glow. Speaking of glow, we have got a lineup of rye whiskey
Goddamn.
to drink tonight, have we not?
We do. We have quite a bit tonight. We are picking Stellum Single Barrel Rye that is produced by the same wise, brilliant, innovative people over at Barrel Craft Spirits. We have some Redditors here to join us as well. This is for the Our Bourbon Single Barrel program. We're coming down to the final weeks of the year. We got about 20 barrels left. We've got about 80 behind us, and it's going to be a good time. So we'll see what jumps out here, but I think we should get tasting.
Do you want to taste it? Have you got any single barrel news we need to touch on, or should we just dive right in?
Nah, let's dive right in. We got
Okay.
I'll do a big update next time. It's
Okay.
stacking up
I think that's fair.
in the back.
So with us tonight, we're going to have Will Schragis from Barrel Craft Spirits and Stellum. Will, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Good to see you
Excellent.
again.
Thank you, sir. We have Blake, our retail partner from sealbox.com and Bourboner.
Thanks for having me.
And we have got a couple of panelists here from the Reddit community. Guys, Carlos, Brian, Matt, everybody ready to sip a little whiskey, have a little fun.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Hello.
Outstanding.
Howdy. So we have 6 samples here in front of us tonight. Will, why don't you go ahead and give us the 101, the 201, the 10,000 star view. What's the stick behind Stellum, and how is it different from Barrel before we get going?
So Stellum Spirits is sort of a separate concept brought to you by the people who do Barrel, or the Barrel Craft Spirits as the company. It's the parent company. And Stellum started in sort of 2 very different ways. The first being the liquid or the whiskey impetus, and the second being the kind of branding and attitude and I guess like opinion on the whiskey world impetus. We started working on Stellum, the whiskeys, way before we had a name and a package and such. And that was a couple years ago when we were really growing really quickly with Barrel Craft Spirits, and we wanted to have a standard expression of bourbon and a standard expression of rye that we knew that we could constantly source. So all of the sources from Stellum are what we call like pipelined, rather than just using strange lots of barrels or one-off lots that we can find to make batches of barrel bourbon. Everything in Stellum is sort of thought consistency forward. And also we saw this like really amazing love of single barrel programs around the country, and a big gap between the people that had the sort of capacity and the distribution network and frankly the bottling capacity to pull them off well. Really only the very large whiskey producers could do that, and there were a lot of indie bottlers doing it, but they were very limited by their own capacities of doing things in different ways. And we have with Barrel probably the most extensive single barrel and private release program in the country. And so we knew how to do it. And by simplifying it and having it be only bourbon and only rye, all at cask strength, we were able to introduce a single barrel program within Stellum essentially nationally immediately. We don't want single barrels to be allocated. We want them to be for stores and groups and customers and people that like drinking the really powerful expressions of bourbon and rye that is a single barrel at cask strength. We want it to be available all the time. And we sort of planned forwards on glass availability, bottling capacity, how we're going to palletize those single barrels, how we're going to ship samples, how we're going to store samples, all the things you don't really think about whiskey companies having to deal with. We made all the mistakes for 6 years with Barrel. And so we were able to launch Stellum in a more forward-thinking way. The big difference between the Stellum blends and the Stellum single barrel program is the Stellum blends are large age ranges blended together, multiple sources blending together. All of the Stellum single barrels are out of Indiana. And I feel like I've probably dropped the name of the one distillery that everyone knows it's from in Indiana on this show before, but for safety reasons, I'm just not going to say it out loud. You all know what I'm talking about. If anyone else wants to say it, go for it. Although I think it has a new name now, but not always, but sometimes.
What is the new name for MGP? Just curious, totally unrelated.
It's Ross and Squibb. So
I was about to say
Sounds like
Bubble
an
and
80s
Hum,
band
yeah.
to me for some reason. Like, where did that come from?
I thought it came out of Harry Potter.
So definitely enjoy your Rossville Union, produced by Ross and Squibb, distilled at MGP, bottled by Lux Row.
Jay knows. So what we have here is an expression. These are all 4 and 5 year old rye samples.
Okay.
They're all at cast strength. They spent varying amounts of time in Indiana and in Kentucky. And actually, I think several of them spent about a year in Ohio as well, for what it's worth.
They get lost?
Just because of different storage contracts and brokerage contracts and such. When we do the Stellum single barrel program, we do it based on seasonal selections. And so we pick a large number of them to make samples available of 2 or 3 times a year. And we give that set what we call cluster name. And because Stellum is loosely this kind of like Cold War and celestial motif, we name it after a star or a star system. So here, this pick spans 2 different clusters of single barrel rye barrels, Serpens, and then a star, which we were talking about before we started. I believe it's pronounced Rigel, but some people on the internet believe it's pronounced Rigel, and I don't know which is right. So have at it, internet, and argue Rigel or Rigel. But it is the brightest star in the Orion, whatever constellation.
Okay.
Anyway, these are all really exciting barrels. It was interesting to smell through them because they have very similar immediate flavor profiles, but they're very different in terms of how expressive they are. I feel like some of them really jump out of the glass and some don't.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
but,
I noticed that kind of digging through. I did a little preemptive nosing here and thought we had our work cut out for us because on the nose, they seemed strikingly similar.
Yeah.
And I've only tasted through a couple of them so far, but the nuance actually kind of shows up fairly easily as you start tasting through. So I'm excited to see what we get into here. It looks like there's a lot of meat on the bone.
And what I kind of want to, and this is really my own belief about single barrel rye and single barrel bourbon, but for Brian and Matt and Carlos, when you're looking at blends, you're really trying to find profiles that tease the most complexity out of different ingredients and use them for what they bring to a blend, not necessarily like what they are completely. At least for me, and Jay or John or Blake, cut me off if you disagree, but I find the interesting single barrels are the ones that are really uniquely themselves. The ones that are really powerful about the things you like about them. And generally people who like single barrel bourbon and single barrel rye are not as interested in gentle nuance. They're interested in like getting punched in the face by the whiskey. And so, well, if there's one that stands out for being nuanced and delicate, so be it. But for the most part, I think what we're looking for here is like the one that's loudest about itself.
I was going to say, there's been a few good slaps so far just within nosing the first 3 glasses. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, I would say I don't know that I've ever really pegged Stellum as being like the nuanced one. So I think we should probably be okay here.
Oh, you remember how dumb I was when I used that word nuance earlier?
Is that going to be the word of the night? Is
Nuanced. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and dive on in while we're getting some sips in. I forget, Will, are these all the same mash bill? Can that be disclosed?
Yes, these are all 95.5.
Cool. That makes sense, but I figured I would have it for the record.
The entirety of the Stellum Rye blend is not all 95.5, but all of the single barrels are.
Cool. I was like 99% sure, but I was like, that's probably good. So
not that the general viewing audience cares particularly about the names of the barrels, but we are sipping all of these through in a particular order. Just for the sake of saying it, I'll say that we have A2, A7, K7, N4, P2, and W8. Just that way we've said it here, and when 2 hours later Blake is like, now wait a minute, wasn't W8 the second one in the order? We at least have said, like, look, man, we laid this all out in the beginning.
Like, we put it in the chat. Would you just scroll up and
what'll happen is
wriggles
tomorrow,
out
when
and,
we're trying to tell which barrels.
Yeah,
we
I
actually
can't wait
want.
for that 7:45 in the morning email tomorrow. Now wait a
So
minute.
what'd we pick again?
I think it started with a Y.
Actually, you guys spoil me as a guest. That like, I feel like I get an email reminding me the day before. I get a like, here's the thing. It's all set up. You help track the packages.
Try to make it easy for everybody
Yeah,
involved.
you're just the best.
The fewer amount of loose ends, the better for us in general. Jay is very, very good at being a calculated scheduler, and I'm very good at fucking up his schedule most of the time. And so
All the time.
I'll screw up the schedule and be like, yeah, no, Jay, this is all fucked up. You got it all wrong. He'd be like, no, it's right. But wait a minute, let me check out the details. And then he like fixes all the things that I broke. So like it continually works out. It's like a great system that he seems to have to do all the fixing on.
Yeah, you guys make it easy. You flatter me. Cool.
Any immediate likes, dislikes, comments, loves?
For me, it's the A7. I think right now it's got some of that spearmint. I guess I want to say almost like a cedar on the nose, but it's sweeter than the others by a little bit, which I enjoy. So it makes the nose, in my opinion, like a little more robust and full than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I find it to be a little sweeter too, and not so much that it comes off as tasting sweeter, but there's
Right.
like this viscosity and like ease on the palate. When you're tasting like a horizontal single barrel tasting like this, a lot of times the things that are different between the barrels are not about the flavor notes; they're about the texture, because one set of staves may have had just more available wood sugar in them than others. And I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like even though there's not a huge amount of variation between these, there is like a viscosity and like a cane sugary quality to that one that some of the others don't have.
I got.
Oh, sorry. I think
No, go ahead.
proof. We have a great, there's some heat behind it. They're all really close in proof, 114 to 118. Like they've got some heat behind it, but a lot of flavor comes out on all of them.
Whew. Yeah. So for me, the one that kind of stood out was the Serpens K7. And I think just because I don't get what I'm expecting to get out of a 95.5 rye, it's like it's more like spicy bourbon than rye. I don't get a ton of mint. And then on the palate, I get more like a butteriness and like a red hot candy, which I do kind of like. I tend to lean towards sweeter, and that's probably why A7 was my next favorite, because it does have a little more of that candiness to it. But yeah, so far these are like not your standard dilly, minty, spearminty ryes at all.
At all.
I find that the dilly quality is really pervasive against water. And so I get dill out of 95.5 ryes or even Kentucky ryes that either have been knocked down to between 40 and 45%, or ryes that got knocked down too quickly, where they got shocked when people were putting water in them. Water as a molecule, like it doesn't just blend, it like literally changes, it pulls things apart from existing molecules in the whiskey when you add it. And the temperature of the water you're adding and the temperature of the whiskey you're adding it to and the speed with which you're adding it make it marry differently. And I think one of the reasons that Stellum as a blend, but also the single barrels, really have that very alpine-y style of herbaceousness rather than like a dilly style of herbaceousness is because they're at cast strength and they're like essentially unfiltered.
And yes, Will does live at the police department.
Yeah, so I'm curious. Yeah, I like A7. I'm between A2, I think, and A7. I think I prefer A7 myself. I don't know what you guys think, Brian and Matt.
We are behind on drinking. We thought we were like starting all at once. So we're,
Oh, you went by numbers. Okay.
yeah. You guys are.
Chopped.
Way more self-control than I have. I'm like, all right, I'm through all 6 of them now. So let me
Your guys
know what I
aren't
need to
empty yet.
re-pour.
For the reasons Will described, K7 was my second favorite.
Okay. I do.
it's got a
K7 was
little-
the one I smelled and loved right away.
It, to me, has a little more spearmint almost, at least on the nose. But maybe I've just got a dirty glass.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because
It's
I'm sniffing
interesting.
N4 right now. Like, is my glass busted? This one is extremely different. This reminds me of that black tea Heaven's Door Blake.
Mm,
That like
Yep.
weird, super off profile one.
yeah.
I also find P2 to be really interesting because it is much like twangier.
Mm.
It almost has like a trying to think of a good way, like you know, the like petroleum kind of smell that you get on Riesling sometimes, or like not like the gas itself, but like around the gas station kind of smell.
The
I get that
ambiance
on-
of a gas station.
Yeah.
That's
That's how I sell the whiskey.
yeah.
But not one of the gas stations that has
the
the fried chicken, though.
Yeah, that's I always get that with rum. I'm like, it's like burnt plastic, but in a good way. I
Yeah,
guess.
corrosive.
yeah.
Mm.
So-
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
this smells awful. It's so
I
good.
was sipping P2 as you said that, Will, and there is something to it. Like, it gave me
Kind of
this
does
sort
this
of
to your palate a little bit, like dries your palate out a little
yeah.
bit.
It's got a little bit of a drying thing going on. It reminded me of something that might have been cask finish, but like I couldn't necessarily put my thumb on what it is. Like, there's something in there that like on the nose I thought was a little bit juicy, but when I got into it, I was just like, no, that's like, I don't know, a little bit tired. It does have a little bit of a drying thing going on, but there's a good overall profile to it. But I don't.
P2 to me
think-
is a cocktailing rye
yeah, I can see that.
because
It's
it could take a sweet
it's interesting.
modifier.
I'm
me,
still
it's
hung up on your gas station serving Riesling.
No, either one of those, the two different things. But
Oh,
I would love a gas station serving.
Hey,
Riesling.
if you go to the Central Coast in California, there's a lot of gas stations
You
that
could
sell
find that.
really top-notch Rieslings. You know,
I live in the wrong place. It's simple as that.
Will, what does the kind of the selection process on this look like? I mean, Barrell and Stellum, I think y'all have one of the best and most accessible tasting teams I've seen from any brand. In between yourself and Nick and Tripp, and we'll give Joe some credit too, I guess. But so is everybody sitting down and just blowing through barrels? Are you kind of breaking them up by lots, or how do you go from, hey, we've got what we want to blend, and here's what we want to be single barrels?
So the single barrels come out of ingredients for the blends of Stellum,
Mm-hmm.
and basically a larger amount of barrels than we need for the single barrel program get identified based on kind of quality that we knew about them before. So warehouse placement in Indiana, or do we like the way that a place that they were aging were sitting? Do we trust the broker? Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We bring in all of them, and then we do a sort of spot check as we're dumping for the core of Stellum. And so it is, as much as I wish that I could project the romance of every single barrel is like
But that's-
hummed over by four people, and it's more like does it have the lineage to be in the single barrel program, and then it gets checked to make sure it can be. And if something is off in a bad way, it'll get pulled out altogether. And also, as things are needed for the core blends, which is always with the batches of bourbon for barrel and the core Stellum blends, that our primary objective is always making sure that the mass market items are as good as they can possibly be. But as we are pulling for that before we dump, we may, if it's something really cool, we don't use it. And so some of the barrels are put in the single barrel program and just made sure they should be there. And some are pulled out last minute because we felt like they were too special to be in. And for instance, like probably my favorite single barrel that our company, Barrell or Stellum, has ever released was in the Barrell universe, but it was a 4-year 95.5, and it was called MG01. It was the impetus for the Joe's Playlist program because we were so obsessed with it. And it was a 4-year MGP. It spent 4 years in oak and 1 year in stainless steel. And it was about to be dumped for one of the rye batches of rye for a barrel, and everyone, like, someone was, I don't remember who it was, probably Trip, was like, no, this is crazy. And then we took the whole
This is going home with me.
There were 8 barrels on that pallet that all became single barrels, because just something about where it had been sitting for 3 years or whatever.
That's cool. I like the two-prong approach that you've got. So it's like on the batch, blended, and bottled side is super consistency, dialing it in and keeping it there because you know what you've got is good and you know how to recreate it. But then on the single barrel side, it's sort of the opposite, really, where you're like got these wilder ingredients that on their own stand off a little bit better than they would in a blend. So it's I think an overall good way to do it. And there's also something to be said for what you guys are releasing as single barrels at a really reasonable price in today's whiskey market. So on top of having a really great batch product, you've also got access to some pretty kick-ass single barrels too. Yeah,
I'm really happy. The STELLUM single barrel program has been really fun to roll out because for so long, and still, but before the STELLUM single barrel program especially, we were really determined to like do what we wanted to do, and if people liked it, they like it, and people don't like it, they don't like it. The STELLUM single barrel program was kind of designed for the bourbon and rye world. Wants this. They want cask strength, easy to digest, available releases. And it's been fun for me talking to distributors that like our goal is not to be allocated. Our goal is our company is independent. We don't have a vodka that we're using a single barrel program to leverage into every liquor store.
Right.
If someone wants to have a single barrel of STELLUM every month, they can have a single barrel of STELLUM every month, because like there's only 4 SKUs in or soon to be 6 SKUs in all of STELLUM. Rye, single barrel rye, bourbon, single barrel bourbon. And I saw Jay's eyebrows raised when I said that.
Devious.
Yeah.
I want to say right off the bat, after tasting them, like there's not a bad one here. If there were any of these 6, I'm in for a bottle. So like there's
good. That was part of your contract when you signed.
Yeah, that's how I got invited.
Yeah, you saw the fine print. Right?
Matt's teeing up me saying you can have all 6 if you want.
Oh, this isn't all getting blended together.
24 barrel selection. What? No, I'm having a hard time because I usually like to start by like kicking out stuff I don't like so I can pick from the stuff I'd like later. But really, I think the one I probably like least is W8, and it's like through no fault of its own. I just like the other ones better. You know,
Yeah,
it's not like
I thought W8 was an outlier, not necessarily in a bad way. I don't have it pushed as far back as a couple others, but I think that it has a little bit more of a juicy fruit gum style thing going on for me.
I find it to be kind of like A7, but not as exaggerated, and so it doesn't do it for me quite as much.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
quite
like
up there.
mini.
That's the one I eliminated first too.
Okay, I'm not crazy.
Get him
Cool.
out
There we
of
go.
here. That's an easy.
This isn't usually how it goes. So I'm cool.
One down.
Okay, you can get these 5 barrels.
Yeah. Don't say that. It's on camera. So whenever you get that email in the morning from Jay saying,
That's right. You know that
"Hey,
email is coming tomorrow.
here's this
Well,
quick
Blake,
clip
first
of
is going to you.
Yeah. You know, I don't care.
Hey, Blake, remember that PO we talked about? We're just going to
Yeah.
make a slight adjustment.
Oh, all the fields are blank? Huh.
Ah,
Yeah.
weird.
No, I'm pretty pleased. These are some pretty good things.
Yeah,
you
these
guys
are really
drinking.
good. So in P2, I feel like we talked about that one a little bit, and I really do enjoy the nose. It just gets a little proofy for me on the palate. I don't know what it is, because the nose I really want to jump in on, but then I take a sip and it is a little bit hot.
On that one,
P2?
yeah.
Yeah.
For
I'll
me,
use
I don't.
yeah. Sorry.
No,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, the word that I'll steal from somebody else is alcohol integration. I didn't get as much good alcohol integration on P2 as I would have liked.
Wow. Very good.
Such
Choice
big
of words,
words.
Blake. I like it.
Will's like, Blake, you're wrong. I'm going to explain why now.
Not at all.
N4 is sticking out for me a little bit. The 4th one.
I really like N4.
I get like on the nose occasionally, almost like a Snickers bar. A little bit of chocolate, peanut, something unique that I don't smell in the other 5. And
Did you eat a Snickers bar earlier today?
Did not.
You've got a glorious beard. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't stuck in there.
Thank you. Yeah.
To Blake's comments about P2, I don't know if anyone else is getting this, but it sort of has for me like a delayed mouthfeel where like you don't get the flavor and the heat right away, but it sort of coats the tongue like maybe almost like a pop rock sensation, not the flavor, but just the sensation a little bit. Yeah. Which I haven't gotten from the others, but
Things get tingly real quick. Yeah. P2 I thought was pretty proofy. Like I liked what was going on, but you could tell me almost any proof and I'd be like, yeah, it drinks that for sure. Like north of 110, 115.
Even a Maz, good to see you.
Every time I
it's
hear
better.
someone say P2, I think of the fancy Dom Perignon release.
Yeah.
Yeah, P2 was the second one that I eliminated. So
I pushed that one back as well.
All right. Out of here.
my top two right now are A7 and N4.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Sticking out for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Fun.
So for anybody who's just jumping in and joining us now, we're going to be selecting a single barrel of STELLUM Rye here. My goal with this evening is to get everybody excited about the Our Bourbon single barrel program by subscribing to us and getting all of your single barrel content here, right? So like if you want to see some of these selections, this is where we do them. So hopefully you're enjoying the selection here and you'll want to check out some of our other reviews and other videos. And you can come back here for the next single barrel selection and you can see how we go through this process. And hopefully you can catch some more of the stuff that we do with Will because those are some extremely fun videos.
I'm very excited for the last one we're going to do this year that I still have a lid on, but
Yes.
I kind of want to record a bad grunge song to use as the intro video.
Okay.
Okay.
I could do that.
I'm super into it.
Yeah. Me on my iPhone in an airport.
Yep. I like everything about where this is going.
So like actually bad. Okay. Like okay.
So real life terrible.
But no, yeah, this is
Blake,
it's
to
getting hard here.
Touch on what you're saying when you said I was going to correct you. You probably taste more variety of whiskey than I do. I think one of the really sad professional parts of the pandemic for people in positions like mine has been like I was so interested in whiskey before I had a position where I got to talk and learn about whiskey all the time. But then I had like 5 years of constantly tasting everything that everyone was releasing. And the whiskey industry in general was so fortunate to be somewhat unaffected from a business standpoint, although from a personal standpoint, everyone was affected in different ways. And now just like getting back to things, it's like really exciting to be out tasting again. But when you say I would correct what you've probably tasted and talked about more variety of whiskey in the past 2 years than I have. I've been pretty stuck at home, and other people don't send me samples the way that they send it to you.
This is true. I tell people I have way too much to drink, and by that I don't mean I'm an alcoholic. Just mean there's like way too much I have to get through on samples and everything else. But that's kind of the fun part of it, and the interesting part, just to see. I mean, shoot, we've picked quite a few 95.5 rye barrels, and none of them taste like anything in this lineup. So that's really incredible to see. Makes it fun too.
I was talking to Stephanie Bear, who is our senior brand development manager based in Colorado. The two of us are going to Vegas for the Whiskey on the Rocks tomorrow.
Oh, fun.
And we're just like, we're excited to spend time together. We're excited to show the brand in person. And like, we're also excited to like walk around to tables and try things from other brands that like used to be something we do every month at some event somewhere and haven't been able to in so long.
It's good. Yeah. I mean, it's good to like have the diversity. Like and you're kind of lucky. Like Barrell has so many freaking SKUs that like you kind of have your own like universe within the company. But if you only got to drink Barrell and Stellum all day, I mean, I know that like Trip isn't
I wouldn't trade with anyone, but it has its limitations.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the cool thing to always see is when you go into a brand or distillery's lab or tasting room, you see other bottles. I mean, I've seen it at Barrel. I've seen, Four Roses has a big cabinet. I know, I believe Buffalo Trace has a big cabinet as well. And it's like, yeah, if you get so pigeonholed into just your product, you can miss some stuff, and it's or it's just not as fun anymore if you're just drinking the same thing all the time. But
Right.
no, it is cool to see whenever people they do drink other brands and things.
Yeah, you got it, man. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see the forest for the trees if you just narrowed your entire scope to just one, whether it was one distillate or one brand portfolio. You're going to be able to see it all, stretch your legs a little bit, and then also find out what other people are appreciating and see what it is about those things that they like, especially with a company like Barrel, where you guys have
where we're trying to
such a
innovate so
plethora.
quickly.
Right.
But, like, really talking to people about what they're excited about and not trying to copy anyone else, but like take lessons from what's successful and use those lessons to develop our own things. I look at just like the emergence of secondary maturation whiskey right now. And it's a little bit of people living in each other's wakes. And it's also a little bit of liking a whiskey and realizing there's other things out there in that category. And there's things you can do to change the flavors of whiskey that still leave it as whiskey.
Sure.
And it's amazing in the past, 3-4 years, the variety that has come out in the mainstream of the whiskey, the things you can get on a reasonable liquor store shelf that never existed before.
Yeah, I mean, there's like things like French toast bourbon, like stuff you'd never believe.
Sign me up for that.
Right, but then I like
crazy.
Seagrass, yes.
I knew I saw that
thank you.
seagrass in the background.
But then I look at like
Teed up.
I'm trying to think of a good example, like really classic, the Lustau finish Redbreast, for instance. That like
Right.
that, what had to happen for that to come out, or the what is it? What's the blend that's made out of Strathyla? The really classic blend that Pernod Ricard owns. Chivas Regal.
Okay.
The Mizunara finished Chivas that came out. Like, who would have thought that brand would have done a Japanese oak finish?
When did that drop?
Like a year and a half ago, 2 years? No, more than a year and a half ago. Sorry, I bought it on a trip in 2018, maybe.
All right. I'll give myself a pass. And I was like, how did I not know that this just dropped? But okay, if it was a year and a half ago, I mean,
it was more. I mean, it was probably a year before the pandemic. So yeah, it feels like a year and a half ago, but it was a year and a half before.
Yeah, we skipped a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those years isn't real time.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
an illusion.
But yeah, I
So
mean,
let's
finishing is
direct-
coming out.
Let's
So-
direct this thing back toward the 5 barrels of whiskey that we're buying, and start pushing away. So we pushed out W8, we pushed out P2 and W8. There were some nods toward pretty much all of the remainders, which I think is where we're going to really have to pare this thing down and kind of start leaning on not necessarily what's your favorite, but which one of these 4 that's left doesn't do it. Like, which one of these could you push out of the lineup? And let's go with Brian and Matt first, since we've got 2 opinions right there in one. That I think that sort of counts as like not quite
like
2 votes, but let's call it. You guys could be a vote and a half, tiebreaker.
We'll call it left Twix and right Twix.
Yeah.
Snickers.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Next one I would push would probably be A2.
Yeah, it's
That was
between
fighting
8
words.
A7.
It's hard.
I like the nose on A2 though.
I like
Yeah.
A2
Oh,
and
yeah.
A7 both. Yeah. Actually, really, of what's left up here, I could probably pick one right now if I had to. But I think I would like to reserve all of my voting until the end because you guys, it seems like we've got a pretty good spread here, and I want everybody to plead their case before I tell you all that you're wrong.
I like M4 a lot. A7, I get a lot of that spearmint wintergreen in a very good way. Like it balances well with the rye. K7's, it's unique. What word's good for us?
Let's pick up on K7. Blake, what do you think?
Yeah, so initially I really liked K7, and then tasting it back against let's see, I kind of pushed A2 to the back just because I only had 3 glasses. So I was going A7, N4, K7. And K7 ends up getting a little bit more muted, but I still really like it. I don't know. A7 and N4. Yeah,
the mid palette of K7 to me is really where it shines. It's a little muted on the nose, but it like hits you with a second.
Yes.
There's like a second thing in it that you don't the others don't have.
Yeah, that buttery pie crust in there is standing out a lot, I think.
Which is also interesting because that's, you know, I feel like that can not hold up as well when you got kind of that very punchy, and that's where I feel like A7 and N4 are. They just pack a lot the entire way, and so something it's a little more nuanced may get lost. Everybody drink. I said nuanced.
What do you think, Carlos?
I'm torn. I do like the N4 if I didn't have the A7 and K7. I think the A2, although Jay will disagree, I think to me it feels like a little like not as complex as the others. It's very smooth given the proof, I think.
Sure.
But for me, the A7 has this sort of there's like a hint of like a candy quality. As someone who really likes Boo Rye and likes Elijah Craig barrel proof, there's like notes of that at the high proof, you know, that I really enjoy in the Rendezvous Rye, for example. And I think that has a little bit. So someone who gravitates more towards that, the A7 is, you know, in that wheelhouse. N4 smells great. I mean, these are all really great. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Which some splitting hairs here. A2, just because it doesn't have like, you know, the different flavors, I guess. It doesn't have as much nuance.
I'm with you. I liked A2 until I went back and tried A7 right next to it again, and I think it's no contest between A2 and A7, at least in my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we boot out A2, or is there anyone who's like got their A2 poster ready to hold up?
No, that's the one I boot.
I think A2 is balanced in a way, maybe more so than the other ones, and that's why we should boot it. It's exactly what I was talking about at the beginning. It's not enough. It's not powerful enough in one way.
That's the professional way of describing what I was trying to say in my, you know.
I like it. I actually, so A2 being the first one that we sip, threw me for a little bit of a loop because I had a sip of that after nosing through them all and thinking that they're all fairly similar on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed a sip of A2 and I was just like, oh, holy shit, this is going to be tough because this is really, really nice. But I was like, well, you know, it's not, to the point Will is making, it's not a punch in the face. It's not a big spice bomb. It's not incredibly complex. It's not a total outlier in terms of profile. It's just tasty and right down the middle of the road. And I tell you, man, if I had like house rye that was in a decanter that had no label on it, it just had like a handwritten marker on it that said rye, I'd be totally happy with that. You know,
I think Will
4 or
would
5
probably
days a week.
kill us if we called it like STELLUM RYE.
This is
Right
my scotch.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. If
There
I
you
had
go.
one of those that said rye and that barrel was in it, I'd be a happy man. It's perfect right down the middle of the road.
Yep.
I like it's got a little bit of candy notes to it, but it's not incredibly complex. So overall, it's a good pour, but I'm okay pushing it out.
Yeah, I get that herbal, like almost herbal tea vibe on it, slightly in a very balanced way. I like it, but compared to the other three, if I have to eliminate, that'd be the one I'd push.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that leaves us with a final 3. What a couple of you didn't know going into this is if, you know, we thought you had to go from 3 to 1. If we like 2, we'll actually take 2 barrels here. So we really, you can, you know, we don't have to.
Oh,
split it up
man.
too much.
Makes it easy.
I
So
know
we only got to kick one more person off the
Well,
island. Here we
Really,
go.
Will
all
was
we got to
hoping for
do
5,
is get Blake to drink 3 more samples and then talk him into buying 3 barrels.
the old Westland.
Yeah,
Hard.
That's right.
I'm not the one. We got to get drunk here.
No, but yeah, so if we like 2 enough, we'll take 2 of them. So I think that there's enough difference in profile here that it could be an easy case to make for 2, you know, interesting but different ryes that are both really good for kind of that I don't know, photo finish, tie, whatever
Sure.
you call it. But
1 and 1A.
Okay. So we're looking at A7, N4, and K7.
yeah,
Correct.
Am I right in saying that like A7 is the one that there's no way it's getting booted if we're picking?
I think
it's not
A7
going
seems
down.
pretty
I-
unanimous.
Yeah.
I would
So
go ahead and star that one.
let's not talk about that one for now, and let's decide between the other two.
I think that's fine.
K7 and N4 side by
All
side.
right. Well, you know what? I feel like I need to give the case for K7 now. Let me go back to my my soapbox, and
Yeah.
I'll.
Preach.
We're here for it, Blake. Let's talk about K7. Tell me your feelings. I want to understand where you're coming from.
K7. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You get the initial flavor notes, a lot of pop, something interesting you don't get from rye whiskey, which is that buttery crust that it's like a fresh croissant coming out of the oven. And it just I don't know, it drinks a little bit easier. I think I get I get kicked out of our bourbon if I use the word smooth, so I won't do
you do.
that. And
I know a guy who specifically targets that.
but no, I keep coming back to that one. It is like that, a little more of a desserty. Just it's complex, but there's enough to it where you're not bored by it, but at the same time you can just keep drinking it and drinking it. That's what I like in whiskey.
I'm with you. And for the record, there's nothing wrong with smooth. Just don't make it your only adjective.
That's a good point. Okay, fair enough.
But still, if you say it, we do have to remove you.
I mean, if you're like, oh, it's smooth and creamy, and this and that, like, cool. But if you're like, how was it? What did it taste like? And you go smooth, like, yeah, all right.
But smooth just means I like this. This is good for me, which is a good thing to say. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
It just isn't why,
Just
But
Yeah, I mean,
also,
when I've
unless
got-
someone has an argument against that, I think it's pretty hard to tell Blake that his pick isn't the pick.
oh no.
Oh, we do it all the time.
with being wrong.
This wouldn't be any fun if we couldn't tell Blake no.
I always
From my position, it's pretty hard to tell Blake
no,
that his
it's
pick
not.
isn't the pick.
You easily
Yes.
said, well, I always, preemptively know who I'm tasting with, and I've been on barrel picks with like guys I grew up with. I'm like, oh yeah, everybody's got a vote except for my vote counts for 10 because
Right.
you drank tequila last night, you drank vodka all morning, and like
All
but
morning.
Then when you're in a group that actually knows what they're talking about, I'm like, I'm fine with getting outvoted. That's the democratic
Or like,
way.
I can be
so,
convinced,
yeah.
Right, yeah. You could sell me on your opinion, even if it is wrong, as long as you do a good job selling it, because these are still good. So whatever, like,
Yeah.
you're not going to hurt my feelings. And if I think you make a good case, then I'll probably agree with you because, fuck, these are all tasty. So whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not going to do any harm here.
That's why I jumped on the soapbox early.
Good. That's a
Vote
good place
often,
to be.
vote early.
That's right.
So yeah, I think I'm leaning K7. I still really like N4 though. I think this is where it becomes tough for me. Like N4 is really sweet, nougaty, and like very dessert forward, and K7 has kind of a even almost like a light balsamic pop that I think is just like fun and different and interesting. But it's like very rye forward, rye-ish.
I like rye-ish.
Rye-ish.
I think the N4 is spicier than the K7.
Oh really? Okay.
So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I'm broken tonight. I'm the broken one. That's fine. That's fine.
Man, they're both fantastic. I have a slight edge to N4.
Okay.
And Brian disagrees with
Yeah,
me,
I'm
so
going
my
towards
vote means
K7,
nothing.
where N4 is more of the rye.
We're split down
profile,
the
but-
middle on this, huh?
All right, we split. Carlos, which one do you like?
Yeah, no pressure. Carlos.
K7 tastes like the fall holidays to me,
Okay.
So that watching Green Bay Detroit Lions game before Thanksgiving,
Turkey with 8 legs on it.
Ooh,
right?
Yep.
If
you
I
had me at Thanksgiving.
Bay.
that's
Words.
A7 and K7 to
That's
me.
fighting
so.
words.
But I do like N4. So I mean I don't know, in my layman's opinion, it's any one of these would be great. I only like K7 just because it drinks to me a little below its proof of what it is. It's smoother. and has a little more fruity notes than the N4, which has a more, if I said like a wooden, like you can taste the barrel a little bit more, the oak on it.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
with you
Maybe
on
that's
that.
just me.
Yeah, I think N4 represents a little bit more of a traditional rye profile.
I agree.
I think
So
I
was
think
that a
that
vote,
sounds like
John?
we're
Was that a
No,
vote?
I'm a K7. I'm K7 all the way. I have been
Okay.
since first.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not where I thought that was going. All right, so I like K7. John like K7. You guys were it's like 3 and 3 really.
I
We
think
get Carlos on our
everyone's
side, so that's
K7 except me.
K7.
I'm the only.
No, Matt's the only N4, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, hallelujah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That went all right. Then
To be fair, though, if I could get the N4 at MSRP at my local pavilions or something, I'd buy that all day. So
God, Blake. God.
Yeah.
So remember, all we got to do is get Blake to drink all the samples and then agree to buy 3.
I mean, shoot, all Will has to do is say the word, and I'm in for
No,
all 3.
look,
but
you guys know that we love working with you. Whatever you want from it and whatever schedule you want them to come out as, you just let me know.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
This
if we
is
can
not
take
a
all 3 and we can do them all together. I mean, I'm more than happy with that, as long as it lands probably after November 1st when we move into the new warehouse, or else
There's-
people
Need some
It's
place
not-
to put
fight
it.
me. So yeah, which I figured that's
We'll be
not
holding
a-
Redditor signups for pallet jacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
Sign up
don't
now.
we don't bottle these until we have confirmation on what you want in the selected by label, and then it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get the labels printed, and then we have to wait for the next time that we have a bottling of single barrel rye day, and so it's like 3 to 10 weeks before they get bottled anyway. So you have we couldn't get it
Awesome.
to you before November, even if we wanted to.
Well, that's a perfect scenario. I mean, yeah, I would love all 3. So
I'm good with it.
it's kind of the best of all worlds if we could do that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, A7, man, I love choices that end up in not making choices. A7, K7, and N4 days. I think those are
This
3.
is like the most non-committal, committed barrel picking.
This is the second most non-committal because with Westland we had 3 options and we bought all 3, and so like there was
We only
No-
bought 2 on
When-
site though.
when you
We
had
bought the
Westland-
3rd one the next morning.
oh
Did you
yeah
guys meet Chris Reesback while you were there?
Yeah.
yeah
Chris
no
was
he
on.
was
We
on
had
it for an episode here.
We had a hell of a time with
super
Chris.
fun guy.
He's one of the people I look up to most in the industry.
Oh
Yeah,
that's very nice.
He's
Yeah,
great people.
Great time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, for the record, we picked 2. We really liked the 3rd, and we all thought maybe we should sleep on this. And then at about 8 a.m. the next day, we're like, no, we need number
Yeah.
3. So
We would be. What was my comment? We'd be stupid to not take this, or it would be the height of stupidity, Blake, if you don't fucking buy this or something like that.
we're like, and
No
bedtime.
pressure.
Cut. Well, because like one of them came in at like 74%. Like the,
Yeah, it
the
was
lowest,
screaming.
the low one was 59. You know, like this one tastes thinner.
Well,
'cause it's
and they
like
were just
59%.
so, I mean, it was so different, but yeah, we'll talk about that on a different chat. But yeah, I mean, honestly, these were fantastic. I think each one of them kind of produced something different and kind of presented something different. So I'm excited to get these in. It's awesome.
Definitely cool. Well, thank you guys. First off, thank you, Blake, for joining us. It's always great to have you picking with us as we pick stuff that's going to go through Sealbox. Really great to have you as a partner. Will, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see. It was a while, and then we had you a couple weeks ago, and then I know you'll be back again sometime soon to talk about something that the lid is still on. So I'm pumped about that. And Brian and Matt and Carlos. I won't say regular all because you guys are members of our Bourbon, which means you're superior to the rest of Reddit. But thank you so much for joining us and signing up. It's great. You know, I wish that we were back at distilleries all day, every day. But in the meantime, you know, we're kind of filling in the gaps. I'm finally ahead enough in the schedule that we can make more of these happen, which is awesome. So thank you for taking the time. And I know twist your arm, but thanks for coming to drink some whiskey with us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Pleasure.
Count me
Yeah.
in for one of each. Like,
This is
sold.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, luckily, since you were a panelist, you are absolutely guaranteed to buy your pick. That's something fun. I thought it was kind of cruel to be like, thank you for taking your whole Tuesday night. Now, good luck with the rest of everyone else. But, you know, there's only like 200,000 of them. Good luck. So, you know, it's been great to have you. These are fun. And if you are looking for more from John and I, you can find us here every Tuesday and Thursday. We've got a bunch of new stuff rolling out. And thank you again to Mackie, who keeps the sound rolling in. Check out Made on Mackie at Mackie.com. And I think that's really it. Where can people find these when they come on out, Blake?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, to be fair, probably just sign up for the Our Bourbon Single Barrel Club. I don't think we've had much get outside of that. So, but yeah, sealbox.com. If you're looking for other stuff, we obviously have lots of other Stellum products. We just got in Barrel Batch 30. So, looking to do some other cool releases. We have a Barbados finished barrel that we selected up there right now, and just got word today that our 11-year-old Tennessee bourbon that we selected
nice.
from Barrell has arrived as well. So lots of cool stuff. If you go to the collection section and look at Barrel Library or just the Barrel collection, we try to put everything in there, Stellum and Barrel, so you can have it all in one spot. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Cool.
Get on that Sealbox text club because it's temptation. It's like
if you want to buy some fucking smoke wagon,
it's the best and the worst simultaneously. It's almost too easy. That's the problem, right? Like,
yeah. The bad thing is it's on my phone too, and I think people just assume it's a bot, and then I'm getting blown up like, yeah, thanks a lot, it's sold out. I'm like, ah, crap. Like then my kids like got my phone trying to FaceTime. I'm like, stop responding to text messages on the app.
Don't open that.
That's funny.
That's great.
You're gonna read some words you're not allowed to pronounce yet. Don't open the app.
The life of customer service. Well, it is. I mean, the text club is great. And Will, if folks are more interested, if they want to learn more about Stellum, where can they find you?
So stellumspirits.com and all of our different various social media, Stellum Spirits. You can also email us at contact@stellumspirits.com if you have any questions. Same thing with Barrell. They go to the same place. And if there's anyone that's ever emailed in a comment or a question, if it's a tough question, you often get an answer from me. They get to me. And so nothing is too nerdy if you have any questions about the company.
I dig it. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again. I'm really pumped about all three of these. Really good time. Rye is a good time. So thanks for joining us, and cheers. We'll see you guys in the green room after.
See you in a bit.
Cheers.
Thanks.